It begins not with a moving truck, but with silence. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of absence. The empty chair at the community board meeting, the darkened window in a third-floor walk-up that used to glow with late-night studying, the bodega counter where Maria used to greet every customer by name now, stopped by a tired stranger who doesn't speak Spanish. This isn't just change. This is departure, and it's happening faster than anyone predicted. In the first 6 weeks of 2026 alone, over 35,000 New Yorkers filed official change of address requests with the U.S. Postal Service, most of them leaving the city entirely. That's more than the entire population of Hoboken. Multiply that by the countless others who leave quietly without forwarding mail, without goodbye parties, without fanfare, and the real number climbs toward 200,000 this year, not because they stopped loving New York, but because New York stopped being able to hold them. This isn't speculation. It's data. The NYC Department of Finance has quietly acknowledged a 4.2% drop in residential registrations since last fall, the steepest decline in over a decade. StreetEasy reports a 31% surge in searches for NYC to Philadelphia, NYC to Jersey City, and NYC to Atlanta. And on Reddit, Facebook, and WhatsApp groups across the 5 boroughs, the same question echoes. Is it time to go? For decades, New York was a magneta place. People came to chase dreams, build lives, become someone. But now, for the first time in generations, the current is reversing. The dream hasn't died, it's just become too expensive to afford. Take Daniel Reyes, a public school teacher in the Bronx. He loved his students, he loved his neighborhood, he even loved the chaos of the 2 train. But after his rents jumped $400 in January on top of subway fare hikes, grocery inflation, and stagnant wages, he realized he was working 60 hours a week just to stay in place. In February, he packed 2 suitcases, shipped a few boxers to his sister's house in Albany, and left. No farewell party, just a quiet exit from a city that no longer had room for him. Or consider Aisha Johnson, a freelance graphic designer in Bed-Stuy. She built her career here. Her friends are here, her favorite coffee shop, her barber shop, her community garden, all within a 10-block radius. But when her landlord announced a $550 rent increase, citing municipal tax pressures, she did the math. Staying meant choosing between health care and housing. So she found a remote job with a firm in Nashville, signed a lease for half her old rent, and bought a one-way ticket. She didn't want to leave. She felt like she was being pushed out. And they're not outliers. They're the new normal. The exodus isn't just about money, though money is the engine driving it. It's about exhaustion, about watching the city you love become a luxury product, priced beyond your reach. It's about seeing your neighbors disappear, one by one, until the block you grew up on feels like a museum of what used to be. What makes this moment especially painful is that it's not random. It's the direct result of choices made over years. Even the deferral of infrastructure maintenance, the over-reliance on commercial real estate as a tax base, the refusal to reform pension systems or modernize transit, the endless cycle of promising affordability while approving billion-dollar towers for the global elite. Each decision chipped away at the city's ability to sustain ordinary life. And now, the bill has come due, not in headlines, but impact U-Hauls heading south on I-95. Worse yet, the departure isn't evenly distributed. It's hitting the very people who make New York function. Teachers, nurses, artists, small business owners, service workers, the ones who don't have trust funds or stock options, the ones who show up every day to keep the city running. As they leave. The social fabric phrase, schools lose experienced staff, restaurants lose loyal customers, neighborhoods lose their memory, and the city responds, not with urgency, but with denial. Officials still talk about record tourism and residential demand, ignoring the quiet hemorrhage happening in working-class and middle-income communities. They celebrate new luxury condos in Hudson Yards, while entire blocks in East New York sit under-resourced and overlooked. The message is clear. New York is open for business, but only if you can pay the new price of admission. But here's what almost no one is saying. This exodus isn't to who's a loss. It's also a warning, because when a city loses its diversity of income, occupation, and experience. It doesn't just become quieter, becomes brittle, less resilient, less creative, less alive. A city of only the very rich and the very poor is not a city, it's a fortress with a moat. And yet, amid the departures, there are those who refuse to leave. In Jackson Heights, tenants are forming housing cooperatives to buy their buildings before speculators do. In the South Bronx, artists are converting abandoned lots into community farms. In Sunset Park, immigrant families are pooling resources to create mutual aid networks that bypass broken systems entirely. These aren't grand revolutions. They're acts of stubborn love, small, daily rebellions against the idea that New York must inevitably become something other than what it was. This is New York Risk Report. We don't just track numbers, we trace the human cost of systemic failure before it becomes irreversible. Because the question isn't whether people are leaving, the question is, who gets to stay, and what kind of city will be left behind? For those who leave, the journey doesn't end at the city line. It begins anew in places where rent doesn't devour half your paycheck, where a subway delay won't cost you your job, where the air feels lighter because the weight of constant survival has lifted, and their destinations tell a story of their own. Philadelphia is seeing a surge of former Brooklynites drawn by row houses under $2,000 a month and a thriving art scene that still feels accessible. Jersey City, once a commuter afterthought, is now a haven for teachers and nurses priced out of Manhattan, juiced one path train away, but with rents 40% lower. Atlanta calls with its booming remote work infrastructure, warm winters, and neighborhoods where you can actually hear birds' song instead of sirens. Even San Juan has become a quiet refuge for Puerto Rican New Yorkers, returning home not in defeat, but leaving isn't escape. It's trade. Many who go speak of relief, but also grief. The loss of spontaneous street conversations. The absence of 24-hour but the silence, where the hum of 10 languages used to blend into one urban symphony. One former Harlem resident told me, "I have a backyard now, but I miss hearing my neighbor's salsa music through the walls." New York wasn't just a place. It was a rhythm, and that rhythm is hard to replicate. Yet for those who stay, the choice is equally fraught. Staying isn't passive, it's an act of defiance. In East New York, a group of Black and Latino families recently pooled savings to buy a 6-unit building through a community land trust, locking in permanently affordable rents for themselves and future tenants. In the Bronx, a coalition of artists and educators transformed a vacant lot into a solar-powered community hub that offers free Wi-Fi, tool libraries, and after-school programs bypassing city services that never came. These aren't utopias, they're lifelines, and they're spreading. What's emerging isn't just flight or fight but something new. Parallel cities within the city, neighborhoods where residents are building their own safety nets, their own economies, their own rules. Cash-only networks, time banks, where an hour of tutoring equals an hour of plumbing help, barter markets in church basements. These systems don't appear on official maps, but they're keeping people housed, fed, and connected when the formal economy fails them, and this resilience is forcing even officials to take notice. In Queens, Councilmember Juan recently proposed a community stability fund that would redirect tax revenue from luxury developments to tenant-owned cooperatives. In Brooklyn, a pilot program is testing rent-to-own models for small landlords willing to sell to long-term tenants. These ideas are fragile, underfunded, and far from universal, but they signal a shift. The recognition that if the city won't protect its people will protect each other. But the clock is ticking. Every month, another teacher leaves for Albany. Another nurse moves to Philadelphia. Another artist packs up for Nashville. And with each departure, the city loses not just a resident, but a thread in its social fabric. The danger isn't just emptiness, it's homogenization. A New York where only the ultra-wealthy and the subsidized poor remain, with no middle ground, no creative friction, no shared public life. That's not decline. That's erasure. Yet there's still time to change course, not with grand promises, but with concrete choices. Redirecting luxury tax abatements to fund truly affordable housing, capping annual rent increases for all units, not just stabilized ones, investing in neighborhood-level infrastructure instead of billion-dollar vanity projects, treating tenants as stakeholders, not revenue streams, because New York was never great because of its skyline. It was great because of its people, the ones who argued on stoops, cooked meals for strangers, stayed late to help a neighbor, showed up even when it was hard. Those people are still here. But they're tired, and they're watching to see if the city still wants them. This is New York Risk Report. We don't predict doom. We document dignitant the quiet battles to preserve it. If this helped you see the human face behind the exodus, share it. Send it to your friend who just moved, your cousin thinking of leaving, your neighbor who's staying against all odds, because stories like these are how we remember what's worth fighting for. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. Hit the bell, because next week, we're mapping the 5 neighborhoods where residents are building the most resilient parallel economies in America and how you can learn from them, whether you stay or go. Until then, listen to the silence. And ask yourself, is it absence, or is it the sound of a city holding its breath?